Hello and welcome. My name's Tony and I'm here with the Everyday Counts program. Thank you for joining me. We have an hour together for chair yoga. And as usual, we're going to spend the first half an hour in the chair. We'll do a check-in and establish a breath. And then we'll come into movement. And the last part of the class, we're going to be down on the floor. Or, if it's more comfortable for you, in a reclined chair or simply on your bed. Coming into a place that you want to start your practice. So a chair that's comfortable and a space around you so you're not bumping into anything. If you like the support of the back of your chair to start off with, fantastic, then use it. Otherwise, I encourage you to come forward a little so we're supporting our own spine. And it depends for you what feels more comfortable. Listening to me about 10% of the time. But the other 90% of the time, you're listening to yourself, figuring out if the movement works for you, if you need to adjust it in any way to accommodate for your body or how it feels for you, or if you need to rest. There's no wrong way of doing any of this. So be gentle with yourself and take your time. And this is a video, so you can pause it at any time. Feet at a comfortable distance apart, and I encourage you to pick up the toes and spread them wide, whether you've got shoes or socks on. You can even pick up the balls of the feet if you like, and imagine stretching the soles of your feet nice and wide and long. And then we'll take the balls of the feet down, lift up through the toes, pushing down gently, about 5 or 10% of your effort, through the balls of the feet and the heels, evenly left to right, and evenly to the inside and outside edge of the feet. Keeping that, allowing the toes to soften down gently, and then release any pressure. Noticing that support underneath your feet. Take a big breath in. Exhale out. And let your legs be supported by the chair underneath them and the floor underneath your feet, or whatever support it is that you have. Allow yourself to be held. From there, taking your awareness up to your seat, to where the pelvis is connected down to the chair. And depending on how you're sitting, some of the back of your thighs may be all the way towards your knees, or not so much, are supported by the chair. So just like we did with the feet, even everything up. So if you wiggle from side to side, depending on the kind of chair you're on and the softness of it, you might be able to find 2 bony bits underneath you. That's the base of the pelvis. So we want to sit as evenly as we can, left to right. And if your shoulders are forward of the hips, it's going to feel like your tailbone is out behind you a little bit. If you're sitting with your shoulders back of your hips, it's going to feel like you're on the back of your pelvis a little. And I encourage you, wherever you are, to sit all the way up on the top of those sit bones. So shoulders more or less over the top of those hips. And it'll be different for every one of us, and it'll look slightly differently too, because we're all put together differently. And then take a breath in. And on an exhale, let your upper body weight sit into the chair. So we really allow that weight to be held by the chair. So we feel quite grounded. From the pelvis downwards, we get the sense of the earth underneath us. From there, that's called rooting. So everything from the pelvis down, connecting downwards, rooting downwards. On an inhale, lift up through the torso. Through the crown of the head, as if the crown of the head could get just a millimeter closer to the ceiling. Roll the shoulders back and down a couple of times. And then let them settle down and away from the ears. Allowing the ears to come a little bit further back, so maybe they're resting over the top of the shoulders-ish. And you can tuck the chin a little if you want, lengthening through the back of the neck. Notice this posture here. Take a breath in. And on an exhale, soften and adjust anything to feel better for you. This is bringing awareness to how it is we've decided to show up today. And let the breath settle. And with this posture here, I highly recommend softening or lowering your gaze or closing your eyes. And we'll just take a moment here and notice, how are you feeling in this moment? There are certain things on your mind today. Concerns, worries, anticipation, excitement. Allow your awareness to come inside your body and notice the energy levels that you're feeling today. Try and stay away from the story as to why. Notice if you're tired, for example, instead of I'm tired because I didn't sleep very well, that would be the story. Just simply, it seems that I'm tired today, or I'm full of beans, or a little bit in between, or not even sure. Notice if there are places in your body that feel like they're drawing your attention. Maybe familiar places, or places that are tender or tight. If there's any adjustments you can make to ease up those locations, go ahead. Otherwise, just make a note of what your body is telling you today, so we can take this information into our practice. And then notice your body as a whole. Notice the places that are drawing your attention, but also notice the quieter places too. Notice the ease. And we start to get this overall perspective, whereas usually we're just noticing what is uncomfortable for us. Start to notice the breath in the body, and the body responding to the breath, especially in that upper chest and torso. There's this expansion and softening. And then imagine your two lungs inside of your rib cage. And then see if you can breathe deeply, a little deeper on the inhale into the rib cage, into the lungs, and on that exhale, softening. And see if you can even it up left to right. And you might notice if you pay attention, and again, a great way to do that is to close the eyes, that when you breathe, you favor one side over the other. You might notice that you breathe more in the front of your lungs instead of the lungs a little further down or even in the back. And think of your lungs as little balloons that are inflating and deflating. And see if you can even the breath out, left to right. As we deepen the inhale, lengthen the exhale. And when you've got your rhythm, as we all breathe differently, see if you can smooth that breath out. So we smooth the inhale to the expansion of the lungs, and we soften the exhale as the air leaves and the ribs and the lungs contract. And again, seeing if you can breathe as evenly as you can into both sides, front and back, top and bottom. And then with this deeper, steadier breath in and out, I invite you to let go of any kind of forcing, any strain of the breath, even if it means the breath gets a little smaller. And as long as this breath feels sustainable to you, then this is the breath we keep coming back to. And I'll keep reminding you to keep coming back to that even breath as best as you can. And the breath guides us through our practice. So if the breath gets really choppy, then do a little less. This is a gentle practice to move within the breath, within the boundaries of the breath being steady and smooth. Let's root down through the feet and seed once more. Rise from there through the upper body. Once again, the shoulders settle back and down, drawing the chin in a little, maybe the shoulders over the hips. And we breathe. With the very tip of your nose and the air in front of you starting to create figure of eights. And everybody's figure of eights are slightly differently, nice and slow. Slow movements, steady and controlled. And again, if you don't feel dizzy, then feel free to soften your gaze or close your eyes and go inside. Notice where you feel this. It might be in the neck, the throat, the upper back, the chest, the shoulders, one side of the neck more than the other. Be curious and stay away from judgment and stay away from the stories as best as you can. Maybe those figure of eights change the shape, maybe they get a little bigger or a little longer, a little higher. You let your intuitive movement guide you. If there's any place that feels really tight that you want to stay in for a few breaths, feel free. Figure of eights, those even breaths. The movement is from the collarbones up. And then we'll pause at the end of an exhale, rest if you like, or going back in the opposite direction. Start small. It's going to feel a little awkward for a few movements. Smooth and steady. Noticing how it feels for you. Steady and smooth. Let's do another couple of breaths. You can always rest whenever you want to. Figure of eight, smooth and steady. And then when you're ready, we'll come all the way back through to center. I'm going to mirror you, so dangling that right hand down, easy through the joints, figure of eight through that right shoulder. As if you're drawing that figure of eight with the head of the arm bone in the air next to you. Keep the breath as steady as possible and notice where you experience this. We're trying to find as much fluidity and smoothness as we can. Just like you smooth the breath, smooth the movement. Another couple of breaths here. And then at the end of one of your next exhales, let's pause and take it round in the opposite direction. Observe and notice. Always adjusting the movement to work with your body and not against it. Rest whenever you want to, or another couple of breaths. And you can always stay for longer if you prefer, if that feels really good to you. Otherwise, at the end of that exhale, let's pause. Take the right hand back to support, left hand dangles. Easy joints here. Figure of eight with that left shoulder. Allow the arm to do what it will. If you've got arms on your chair, you can take that arm out a little wider if that simply feels better for you. Once again, observe where you feel this in your body. See if you can smooth the movement just like you smooth the breath as best as you can. Let's take another couple here. You can always rest. And then at the end of one of your next exhales, let's pause and take that round in the opposite direction. Observing, noticing how you experience this in your body, where you feel it. And then when you're ready, coming back through center. We're going to bend those elbows, soft fists here, elbows in towards your ribs, rooting to rise. I'm going to steady that breath. Again, that full balanced breath as best as you can, left to right, front to back, top to bottom of the lungs. And then when you're ready, on an inhale, we're going to turn to the side a little. We're going to take that right elbow back, up, and across the body. As the right shoulder comes forward, the left elbow comes back, up, and across. So it's a little bit like a freestyle swim, if you like. Make this movement your own. Neutral spine to start with, so the crown of the head is reaching up. We're just getting that range of motion through the shoulders. Those movements can be as big or as small as you like. And again, if you link the fingertips, not that I'm asking you to do that, it's kind of like a figure of 8 through the elbows. Option to stay here, just feeling into that range of motion side to side. Don't expect one side to feel the same as the other. Option to curl the belly in, and we're rounding here, chin tucks a little, and now we've got a flexion of the spine as we open up through the back body. And if that doesn't feel good to you, then keeping a neutral spine and keeping the movement in the shoulders. Breathing that smooth, steady breath. You can rest whenever you want to. Make this movement your own. And then let's take 2 more either side, unless you're resting. And after that last exhale, let's bring ourselves back up to center. And we've got this soft bends in the elbows, soft fists, rooting to rise, steady breath. If the breath is elevated, then regulate it. And when you're ready, we're going to come in the opposite direction. So the right elbow and shoulder comes forward on the inhale, up, back, and down. Same thing with the left. And again, these movements can be small or they can be bigger. One side again may be very different from another. Option to stay here with a neutral spine. Option to extend the spine. So now we're arching, maybe lifting the chin a little, lengthening through the back of the neck so there's not just compression there. And we're opening up through the front body, especially through the heart space, over the shoulders, and underneath the armpits, down through the ribs. Keep the breath in your awareness, guiding the movement. Any adjustments you want to make, please go ahead. And then when you're ready, let's pause and come back to center. Hands resting in front of you, palms towards each other, soft fists, or you can interlace your hands here. Rooting to rise, steady and regulate the breath. And draw the heels of the hands in towards each other as best as you can. From there, figure of 8 through the wrist. Slower than you think. And the closer your elbows are in towards the side of your body, the more the wrist has to do. If you want to make it a little easier, you can allow the elbows to come with you, and then the movement is coming through the forearms and a little into the upper arms. You've got maybe a little sway of the shoulders here. Option to stay there, figure of 8s, nice and slow, as smooth as you can make it. Option to allow those figure of 8s to get a little bigger. And now the shoulders are coming forward and back. Sweeping, steady, controlled movements. And then when you're ready, if those figure of 8s got a little bigger, let's get them in a little closer to the body, draw those elbows in, and we pause, and then take those figure of 8s round in the opposite direction. Smooth as you can allow it to be. Steady the breath. Always that connection to the breath. And allow those figure of eights to stay small. Maybe they get a little bigger as you bring the upper body movement into that. And maybe they get bigger still. Let's take another couple of breaths here. And then when you're ready, we'll bring those elbows in a little, allow those figure of eights to get a little smaller. Come back to center, split those fingers apart if they were interlaced, wiggle through those fingers and thumbs all the way through. So we get those joints moving here, and then we're going to spread those fingertips out wide, and they can be supported. I'm just showing you there as if your fingers and thumbs, the tips of them could get as far away as possible, stretching the palms of your hands and the back of your hands, and then curl them in really slow as if you're slowly crumpling up a piece of paper into the tightest fist that is comfortable for you. Inhaling, spreading wide, and curling in. Regulate the breath with the movement. Let's do 2 more. So the gold here, the medicine, is in that slowness and the building that strength and the control. Stay for that last exhale. And when you're ready, give those hands a shake. And we're taking the hands back to support. If you are sitting into the back of your chair, as we come down through the spine, maybe you want to come forward so there's a little more space to move. But again, above all else, make sure you feel comfortable and stable. Let's regulate the breath. Come back to those full torso breaths. Evenly, left to right, front to back, top to bottom. And then on the inhale, we're going to bring an arch into the back as we bring the heart forward, ribs come forward as the hands slide towards the pelvis. On the exhale, fingertips slide towards or on the knees as we flex. Inhaling, arching. You can lift the chin as long as the back of the neck is lengthened. Exhale, you can tuck the chin as we lean back. We've done a little bit of this. So, opening the front and the back body. You can take this all the way down to the feet. On the inhale, imagine dragging the heels back towards the chair, even though they don't move. On the exhale, push down into the floor as we round. Inhaling and exhaling. If you want to continue with the arms sliding up and down on the legs, please go ahead. Adding arms here, we're going to go diagonal. So right arm top, left arm bottom, you can reach them away from each other or even draw them back in space. So we get this opening across the chest. That's the inhale. On the exhale, we're going to send those fingertips out in front of you. Elbows can be bent or towards straight. Fingertips reach. And then we're going to go in the opposite direction. Top left, bottom right. Inhaling and exhaling, noticing how that feels. We've got that extension and flexion through the spine. Allow this to be your own movement. So adjust anything if you want to for your own body. Maybe the arms don't go quite so high. Maybe they come in a little closer on that exhale. Let's take another 4 breaths here, 2 either side. Steady the breath, steady the movements, and more or less 1 more breath left. Go at your own pace, and then we'll come back to center, rooting to rise, allowing those shoulders to settle back down. Big breath in. Exhale it out, nice and slow. Nicely done. And then from there, we're going to take those feet a little wider. External rotation here. Rooting down to rise. Ankles more or less underneath your knees. Coming further back on the chair. Obviously, you have a little more support, so decide for yourself what feels right for you. Don't be surprised if one external rotation on one side is very different from the other, and adjust yourself to make yourself comfortable rather than trying to find a right way to do it, because there's no wrong way to do this. And we root to rise. Tap back into that breath, so we're evening up the breath, left to right, back ribs, front ribs, and top and bottom of the torso. So it's that whole body breath, that whole torso breath, I should say. From here, fingertips come to the inside of the thigh. And then when we rotating, ground through the ribs. Inhaling forward, exhaling, grounding back. Allow this movement to be guided by your intuitive senses. So maybe the shoulders, the head, the neck get involved. And we want this to be as controlled and as fluid as we can. Functional movement is as fluid as we can make it. And then at the end of the next exhale, when you're ready, we'll pause and take those rotations around in the opposite direction. Again, your intuitive sense, connecting in figuring out what feels right for you and your body today. Inhaling and exhaling. Smooth and steady it out. Let's take another couple of breaths here. You can always rest. And then at the end of the next exhale, we'll pause and come back to center, rooting to rise and steady the breath. And from there, we're going to take that right hand towards or on that right knee. Keep the foot on the floor. You can pick up the toes if you like. Pick up the ball of the foot so you're on the heel. And on the inhale, we're going to take that knee wide. Exhale, draw it in and down. So we've got external rotation on that inhale and internal rotation on that exhale. The further forward you come, of course, the less that right leg is hindered by the chair. So you have a little more option to rotation, but make sure you feel stable. So maybe you want to come back a little further in the chair. Keep connected to the breath. So the inhale draws wide. We're never pushing past the breath, so we're never holding and kind of jamming that knee back. Neither on that exhale. Fluid movement, allowing the body to naturally open up in its own way. Left leg and torso is as stable as possible. Let's take another one here. And then we'll draw that knee back out when you're ready. If the foot was lifted, we'll take it down and readjust yourself if you need to, coming to the left side. Picking up through the toes, maybe the ball of the foot, and then establishing that breath to guide the movement. On the inhale, we're wide. On the exhale, we've got that internal rotation. Right leg and torso, nice and stable, so the movement comes from the hip joint. Don't be surprised if one side is very different from the other. Stay away from the reasons why and just be curious. Never holding the breath or pushing the movement past the breath, so we're holding it. We want the ease, the fluidity of the movement, and we're trying to create that lubrication through the hip joint. Let's take another couple here. Staying for that last exhale. And then when you're ready, we'll come back to center. If the foot was lifted in any way, we'll place it back down. And then when you're ready, drawing those feet back to parallel in your own way. Washing the knees side to side. Easing up any movement through the hip. And coming all the way back to center. Rooting to rise. Let's take a big breath in when you're ready. Exhale it out like a sigh. Settle the breath. And come back to that even breath as best as you can, checking in with yourself, noticing how you're feeling after a little bit of upper body movement. Noticing how your breath is now, as opposed to right at the beginning. Is it coming a little bit more fluidly? Are you more connected to it? Do you have more awareness to the breath in different parts of your body? And come back to that evening up, left to right, front to back, top to bottom. And you can stay here for as long as you like, checking in with yourself, making any adjustments to how it is that you're showing up, how you're sitting here. And when you're ready, I'll meet you down on the earth. I'm going to be down on my mat. Again, if a reclined chair feels better for you, or a bed, then please go ahead and do that, making sure you can just see the screen, and I'll see you there. Here we are, down on the earth, making sure you have everything around you for relaxation, as we will go straight into that after the movement. And then we'll come down onto our back if you're not there already. Knees to the sky, feet to the floor. And once down there, picking up your hips and sending the tailbone a little closer to your heels as you replace it, so we lengthen through the spine. Chin is tucked a little. If you're feeling like your chin is way above your forehead here, then a folded blanket, towel, or a firm pillow under your head can make your neck feel a little more comfortable. From here, feet are a comfortable hip distance apart for you. And take a big breath in. On an exhale, let the body sink deeply into that support underneath you, letting go of any tightness and tension, just like we did at the beginning of class. And start to re-establish that breath. Imagine your lungs inside both sides of your rib cage, and you can even take your hands to either side of your lower ribs here and breathe as evenly into both sides as you can. And so we're establishing the same breath, that smooth, steady breath. The exhale just as slow as the inhale. Might not be evenly matched, but nice and steady. And this is the breath we will come back to. So at any time, you can always pause and re-establish this breath if it feels like the breath has got a little elevated. And from here, taking the hands down by the hips, maybe rolling one shoulder blade and another underneath you. Palms are as wide as it feels comfortable for you. So we've got this openness through the chest and this firm foundation. So push down just gently, about 5% through your hands, all the way through the tips of your fingers and thumbs, and through your feet as well. Keep those toes nice and soft so the balls of the feet and the heels are activated here. With that breath, on the inhale, keeping your spine as long as it feels here. On the inhale, push down into the feet evenly, left to right, pushing down in through the palms, left to right evenly. And we're just going to hover those hips, lifting the hips up, exhaling, tapping them back down. Nice and slow. Inhaling, lifting, and exhaling, tapping them back down. Trying to do that as slow as possible with the breath. And we're not looking at the height here. What we're looking at is the steadiness and that smoothness of the movement. Once the movement's a little bit more familiar to your body, on the inhale, lifting a little higher. And on the exhale, taking that a little bit further down.
Making sure that as you do this, you're pushing evenly down through the left and the right foot and the left and the right arm and hand. So if you feel like you're veering to one side, then come back to even it up as best as you can. Maybe those hips get a little higher, but the smoothness of the movement is the key here. Steadying the breath. Option to stay here. This is a great place to be, just lifting and lowering the hips. If you want to add on, we'll add on the arms. So we'll add on, as we lift through the hips, we're lifting the arms overhead, maybe they even hover off the earth. And exhaling as the hips touch down, the palms touch down too. So coordinating the hips and the hands. And if that feels too much, then just leave those hands back down and just lift and lower with the hips. Anything doesn't feel right to you here, please adjust or rest. Option to keep in flow or lifting up through the hips, maybe the arms too, and staying 3 breaths there. The arms can be resting on the earth above you, evenly rooting down through the left and the right leg, and the shoulders evenly, and the breath is stable. Let's take one more full breath here. And on that exhale, just as slow, hips and hands, if you have them, lower. And we'll take that right knee in, give it a little hug. And from here, seeing as we're right there, let's circle through that right ankle, as slow and as steady as feels good for you. Getting that control with that ankle movement, and let's pause and take that round in the opposite direction. And then come back to center. Right hand rests on that right knee, left arm is away on a cactus at shoulder height, or a T to find that stability there. Right knee draws up towards the ceiling, so the right arm extends, and we're circling through that hip. So this is not unlike that hip lubrication we did earlier, only it's circling instead of just going side to side. Option here. With that left leg, you can wing that left knee out a little bit as long as that feels stable in your groin, just to counteract that right knee coming out to the side. Or you can lengthen that left leg long, flexing through both ankles. And if that left leg is long, push down through the left hip all the way back, down through the back of that left leg through the heel. So you've got some foundation there. Let's pause when you're ready and then take those circles around in the opposite direction. If you do not need that right hand on the hip for stability, then you can allow both arms to be in a cactus or a T, so the torso is stable. Keep the breath steady and smooth. And then the next time that knee comes in towards the chest, let's keep it there. Bend that left knee if it's not there already. Take the right ankle over the top of the left knee. We're in a figure 4 here. Great place to be, just winging that right knee out towards the side. Belly button draws down to the earth, and the breath is steady. Both sides of the lungs as even as possible. Excellent place to stay, or hover that left foot, drawing that left thigh in towards the belly. Hands come either side of the left thigh, underneath the knee, or in front of that shin, depending on the length of your bones. Both feet, a nice generous flex there, so the knees are nice and safe. And we breathe, steady breaths. Can you still breathe into both sides of the torso? Option to stay here, or Option to extend that left leg up towards the ceiling, maybe a nice bend in that knee or towards straight, pushing through the heel, toes spread wide. And those hands can reach over the top of the right foot or ankle here, and maybe drawing up a little further as we draw those left toes towards us. Again, nice bend or towards straight, opening up the back of that left leg. Any tightness in the shoulders, the jaw here, the neck, then just release that. We don't want to add any tension here. As we push that right ankle into the left thigh meets that with as much pressure as the breath can stay and sustain. Then if that left leg is long, let's bend that and take that left foot back to support on the floor, releasing the right ankle. Big breath in, exhale it out. From here, left knee draws in, give it a little hug, and then we'll circle through that ankle. Nice and steady in one direction, smooth it out. And then we'll pause and take that round in the opposite direction. Always staying connected to the breath as we come back to center. Left hand to left knee. That knee comes up towards the ceiling. Right arm is in a cactus or a T. And we're starting to circle through that right knee. That hand is there for support should you need it. That right knee can draw out towards the side, or right leg long, flex through both ankles, and you're pushing through the back of that right side of the pelvis all the way down through to the heel. So it's establishing that connection. And if you do not need that left hand there for support on the left knee, then you can release that. Let's take another couple in this direction. Smooth the movement just like the breath is steady. And then we'll pause and then take those circles around in the opposite direction when you're ready. Getting that full range of motion through the hip. Allow this movement to be your movement. One side can be very different from the other. The movement does not have to be big to be better and beneficial. The more controlled and steady the movement is, the better it is. And let's get that knee back in towards the torso. That right leg is extended. Let's take the foot to the floor and the left ankle crosses over that right thigh. Pushing gently that left ankle into the top of the right leg to get that opening through the left hip. Great place to stay right here. If you want to, we're going to hover that right foot, drawing the right thigh in towards the belly. Hands can come either side of the thigh, underneath that knee, in front of that shin. And don't let the arms do all the work here. If that right foot is off the floor, so we take some softness in through the neck, the throat, the jaw, the shoulders, and the upper back. Use the right leg to draw inwards as you push evenly away with the left ankle. Option to extend that right leg up towards the ceiling, a nice bend, or towards straight. Can spread both sets of toes, and then maybe draw that right foot a little closer up towards your nose, maybe not, keeping the belly button drawn down towards the earth, and we're breathing. There's a whole lot going on here. So play and then re-establish what feels best to you. If that leg is extended, then we're going to bend that, and in your own time, take that right foot down to the floor. And when you're ready, releasing that left leg. Let's take those feet a little wider here towards the edges of the mat and take the arms into a cactus or a T. So we're really rooting down through the upper torso here. Steady and establish that breath. And then with those feet nice and wide, Keep the back of the pelvis on the earth as we just windshield wipe the knees gently from side to start with. We've done a lot with the hips, so this might feel pretty easy for you. Any SI joint issues, this is why you stay, keeping those the back of the pelvis on the earth. If you want to, we can start to allow those windshield wipers a little bigger, and maybe the knees come all the way from one side to the other, letting the opposite hip lift. Again, any SI joint issues, these movements are very small and you're keeping the back of the pelvis rooted to the earth, and the knees are just swaying gently. If it feels okay to you, next time those knees come to the left side, we'll stay there. Right hip is lifted completely here, pushing that right knee towards the bottom of your mat, so we get this opening across the hip flexor here. And the option is to take that right arm up overhead. You can even clasp the right wrist with the left hand and draw the right arm up and over as long as those shoulders are open. And breathe. And we're getting into the whole of the right side here. Any adjustments you need to make because it doesn't feel good in your body, please do. We're working with the body here, never against it. That steady breath. And even with that openness through the right side, can you breathe evenly into both the left and the right lungs here? And I know it's easier to favor the right as it's open. If you've got that bind with the hands, then release the hands back to cactus or a T. And then when you're ready, taking the knees up through center and over to the other side. Only as much as it feels comfortable for you. If the knees are coming towards that right, then the left hip can lift entirely. Maybe this is a great place to stay. If it doesn't feel good anywhere in your body, including the knees, please make adjustments or come out or just windshield wipe side to side gently. Option is to extend that left arm up overhead, and maybe that right hand takes the left wrist as we open up, pushing the left knee down and away, and we get this openness through that left side of the body. But even with that, can you steady and balance the breath in both sides of the rib cage? Smooth, especially the exhales here. Make any adjustments that you need to. And then after a breath or two, release the bind in the hands if you had it, and we'll draw the knees back up through center. Take the feet back in towards each other. Make any adjustments you need to, and then we'll draw those knees in nice and close. Wiggle and waggle, rock and roll side to side, and the knees can be in towards each other or wide towards the armpits. And if this feels good, massaging the back of your body, that's great. You can stay here. If there's any other movement you want to finish your practice, go ahead. I'm going to guide you into happy baby. So taking each hand on the knees, taking the knees nice and wide here, opening up through the groin. Great place to stay right here. If you want to add on, flex the feet and take the feet up towards the ceiling as if you're kind of squatting upside down. Hands can come behind the thighs, either side of the shins, depending on the length of your arms. Maybe you can take either side the outside edges of the feet. And we're drawing the knees down, kind of either side of the ribs towards the earth as the feet are pushing up to the ceiling. And we're breathing, really opening up through the groin. If this is too much, please just keep those heels resting towards the pelvis and just draw the knees wide. You can stay in stillness, you can rock and roll from side to side, anything that feels good here. And then when you're ready, If the feet are elevated towards the ceiling, let's draw them down towards the pelvis, hands on the knees, and when you're ready, bringing the knees in towards each other and resting those feet down. Take the ankles wide apart, knees come in towards each other. We've got constructive rest here as one of the best ways to ease into the lower back. And this is a great place to be in relaxation or any other relaxation shape. So you might want to take a bolster or a couple of pillows underneath the back of the knees. You might want to send your arms out and legs like a starfish, or any other movement. Hands can be either side of your hips, rolling one shoulder blade and another underneath you. You can also take relaxation on your side if you prefer to sit in meditation. You are welcome to. You get to decide what feels best for you here. And as you decide, settling down into what feels like the best way for you to find deep comfort. Making any adjustments, maybe a pillow underneath the head, extra layers if it feels like your body as it stays in stillness will cool depending on your environment. And as you take the time to settle down and settle in, spread your awareness down through your whole body, from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet and the tips of your fingertips. We'll do just a little breath work here. And with that awareness through both lungs, left to right, front to back, top to bottom, starting to really connect to that even breath. On the inhale, the lungs expand. And that exhale, just as controlled, the lungs contract and soften. See if you can deepen that inhale just a little, lengthen the exhale. Slowing the breath down just a little in your own way. Breathing in and out through the nose if that's comfy for you. If not, then an easy breath. Take the breath all the way down into the belly inflating like a balloon on the inhale, and as that controlled exhale happens, that belly deflates, that balloon deflating just as smoothly. Keep that awareness to the breath. Notice the breath in the shoulders too. The subtle expansion and softening. And then follow that breath all the way down through your arms into your fingertips. You might even be able to feel the breath down there. There's this movement, this subtle movement of the cells as we breathe. You might notice the breath down in your pelvis, your hips. You might notice it all the way down through your legs to the tips of your toes and up towards the crown of your head. Imagine as if your whole body were breathing with you. And as you keep that focus on the breath, the whole body breathing, notice if there's a couple of locations in your body, or one in particular maybe, excuse me, where your breath is less present, and take a few moments to really pinpoint any area with your awareness and breathe into it, finding that subtle movement there. Maybe you simply want to pick a part that you're not sure you have the breath there, maybe that
back of one of your knees, or one of your shoulder blades, or your jaw. Imagine, sense, and feel into this gentle, subtle expanding and softening. And take 3 more breaths like that, those controlled breaths in and out. Steadying the inhale, steadying the exhale. And after one of your next exhales, simply allow that control of the breath to dissolve. And allow the next few breaths, that breath to get a little smaller, a little softer. And then feel that support underneath your body. And allow your body to rest deeply into that support. And this is where we allow our body conscious rest. Notice any thoughts, distractions that come up in your mind. And imagine that mind going from thing to thing, sensation to story to the future to the past, that monkey mind that we have. Imagine it like a conversation in the next room that you can kind of hear, but you tune out. And sure, there's going to be things that you tune back into, and when you notice it without judgment, just with a curiosity, like, there I am again, listening to that conversation, that inner dialogue, and just tune it out. Allow your awareness to dip inside your body to a place that feels like the very center of you. It doesn't have to make sense, not the center of gravity. Place all of your awareness there. And rest in that inner center as everything simply just is. Without needing to change a thing, without needing to crack an eyelid or move a muscle, notice. Notice how you feel. Notice what's on your mind, or if it feels. Like you can observe it just a little more. Notice your body as it rests, as deeply as you have allowed yourself to rest. No judgment, just a curiosity. How's your body doing? And then notice the breath in the body, that subtle breath. When you're ready, starting to increase the inhale just a little. On the exhale, let it out the mouth like a soft sigh if that's comfortable. We start to increase the inhale as we draw energy in, and on that exhale, just let it go out through the mouth. And as we take that more mindful breath, starting to awaken your fingers and toes, maybe you glide your head side to side as we start to awaken the body. And any movement that feels organic to you, you might want to stretch wide or long, give yourself a hug. If your legs are out long, maybe bending them, feet to the floor, and just washing the knees side to side, or any other way of awakening that feels good to you, depending on where you are. And you're welcome to stay exactly as you are too. If you are on your back, you're welcome to roll from one side to another until you come to rest on whichever side feels comfortable for you. Taking a moment there. Noticing if you're already up and out the door into the rest of your day, or if you can still take a couple of moments here to be present as you bring yourself to wherever it is you wish to finish your practice today. Settling down in whichever shape you've chosen, rooting into the support underneath you and rising from there through the heart space. Any kind of gesture that feels really good to you here, please go ahead with those hands if you're drawn to it. When you're ready, take a breath in, and on the exhale, soften or lower your gaze as you dip the chin or close your eyes. And thank yourself sincerely and fully for your attention and your practice today. Carving this time for yourself to move and to breathe and to build your awareness. From my heart to yours, namaste.